You know, at 55, I thought I'd already lived through the hardest parts of life. The sleepless nights with colicky babies, the arguments that rattled the windows, the quiet years when Thomas and I learned to speak in glances instead of words. I thought grief would be the worst of it, losing him to that slow, cruel illness that stole his laugh first and his breath last. But grief, darling, is a clean wound. It bleeds. It scabs. It aches when the weather turns. What I never expected was the kind of hurt that festers under the skin, the kind that smiles at you across the breakfast table while it sharpens the knife. It started 2 weeks after the funeral. The house was too quiet, the kind of quiet that presses on your eardrums until you want to scream just to hear something human. I'd taken to sleeping in Thomas's old armchair by the window, wrapped in the afghan he used to hog on movie nights. The kids, Ryan and little Emily, they'd gone back to their lives. Ryan with his important job in the city, Emily with her new baby in Portland. They called, of course. "Mom, are you eating?" "Mom, do you need anything?" Their voices were kind but distant, like they were reading from a script titled, "How to Console Your Widowed Mother." I was folding laundry that didn't need folding when the doorbell rang. Mr. Hargrove stood on the porch, our family lawyer for 30 years, holding a manila envelope and something small wrapped in tissue. His face had that careful blankness people wear when they're about to deliver news that will rearrange your bones. "Clara," he said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "Thomas left this for you. Specific instructions, only to be delivered after—" He cleared his throat. "After." I took the envelope. My name was written on the front in Thomas's handwriting, that familiar scrawl that slanted left like he was always in a hurry to get to the next word. Inside was a single sheet of heavy cream paper and something cold and heavy that clinked against my palm when I turned it over. The letter first: "My dearest Clara, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry for the mess I'm leaving you, but some messes can't be cleaned until they're seen. Take the key to the old shed on Saltwind Road, the one I bought when Ryan was 12 and swore he'd fix up into a surf shack. Remember? You laughed until you cried when he tried to hammer a nail and hit his thumb instead. There's a drive in the desk drawer there. Watch the video, but only when you're alone. And Clara, love, don't hate me for what you find. Hate is a heavy thing to carry at our age. All my love, always, Thomas." The key was iron, old-fashioned, the kind you see in fairy tales. It had weight, like it carried secrets in its teeth. I turned it over in my hands, feeling the cold bite into my skin. Saltwind Road. We hadn't been there in years. Thomas used to escape there when the firm got too loud. When Ryan's teenage rebellion turned our house into a battlefield, he'd come back sun-browned and quiet, carrying driftwood he'd carve into whimsical shapes for the garden. Mr. Hargrove was watching me with that lawyer stillness. "He was very clear," he said. "No one else was to see this. Not the children. Not me." I wanted to laugh. Thomas, always so dramatic. Probably some sentimental video of him sitting on the porch, telling me where he'd hidden the good whiskey or reminding me to water the hydrangeas. But the key felt wrong in my hand, too solid for sentiment. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house creaked around me like it was trying to speak. I kept seeing Thomas's face the last time I visited him in the hospital, how his eyes had flickered with something I couldn't name, not pain, not fear, something calculating, almost. I told myself it was the morphine. I found myself in his study at 2 a.m., the key clenched in my fist. The room still smelled of his cedar cologne and the lemon polish he used on the desk. I opened drawers I hadn't touched since he got sick, looking for, what? Proof that this was all some elaborate joke? My fingers brushed something hard in the back of the bottom drawer, a small wooden box I didn't recognize. Inside was a photograph I'd never seen. Thomas and Ryan, maybe 10 years ago, standing outside the Saltwind shed. Ryan's arm was around his father's shoulders, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. Thomas looked, well, he looked afraid. I should have gone to bed. Should have waited for morning, for rational light and strong coffee. But grief makes fools of us all, doesn't it? I found myself pulling on my coat, the one Thomas bought me for our 30th anniversary, and slipping out into the dark. The drive to Saltwind takes 45 minutes if you obey the speed limit. I didn't. The road unspooled before me like a film reel, streetlights strobing across the windshield. I kept hearing Thomas's voice in my head, not the weak whisper of his final days, but the strong baritone that used to sing Danny Boy, off-key in the shower. Don't hate me for what you find. The shed, no, it was more of a cottage really, appeared suddenly through the pines, its windows dark and watchful. I hadn't been here since Ryan's 16th birthday, when Thomas threw him a surprise party, and our boy got drunk on peach schnapps and threw up in the hydrangeas. The memory hit me so hard, I had to pull over, rest my forehead against the steering wheel, while tears came hot and sudden. When I finally approached the door, the key slid into the lock like it had been waiting for me. The tumblers clicked with a sound like bones settling. Inside, the air was warm, not the damp chill I expected. Someone had been here recently. The kitchen counter gleamed, and there was a faint scent of pine cleaner under the salt tang. On the table sat an old laptop, its screen black, but the power light glowing steady blue. A yellow sticky note was affixed to the lid. Play me. My hands shook as I opened it. The desktop was bare except for one video file labeled For Clara, Eyes Only. I hesitated, finger hovering over the trackpad. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows like it wanted in. I thought of Ryan's face in that photograph, the way his smile had looked painted on. I thought of Emily, 3 states away, probably rocking her baby to sleep right now, trusting that her family was whole and good. I pressed play. Thomas filled the screen, alive and healthy, sitting right here at this table. The timestamp in the corner read 6 months ago. His hair was still thick, his eyes bright. He leaned toward the camera like he used to lean across the dinner table to steal a bite of my dessert. Clara, he said, and God, hearing his voice, not the rasp of his final weeks, but his real voice, it nearly undid me. If you're watching this, it means I'm gone, but I didn't die of illness like they'll tell you. He paused, looked off camera. The image shook slightly, like someone was adjusting the tripod. When he spoke again, his voice was lower, urgent. The person holding this camera right now is Ryan. The screen went black. I sat there in the humming silence, the laptop's fan whirring like an angry bee. Ryan, my son, the boy who used to fall asleep on my chest, milk-drunk and fist-curled, the man who'd held my hand at Thomas's bedside, tears tracking down his cheeks as the machines flatlined. Outside, something moved in the fog. A shadow, too tall to be a deer. I stood slowly, the chair scraping back, my heart suddenly loud in my ears. The key was still in my hand, its edges cutting into my palm. Whatever door this key had opened, I was already on the wrong side of it. I didn't sleep. How could I? Thomas's face, alive and accusing, looped behind my eyelids every time I closed them. Ryan's name hung in the dark like a noose. I left the Saltwind cottage at dawn, the iron key clenched so tight it left a perfect imprint on my palm. The drive home blurred, fog, pines, the ocean breathing on my left. I kept the windows down, salt air whipping my hair, trying to scour the shock from my skin. By the time I pulled into our driveway, the sun was high, but the house still felt refrigerated with grief. I went straight to the kitchen, started coffee I didn't want, and stood over the sink staring at nothing. The key sat on the counter like a black beetle. I should call Ryan, demand answers, or call Emily, warn her. But what would I say? Your brother filmed your father confessing to something, and I don't know what it means yet. No, I needed more before I shattered what was left of us. I took the stairs slowly, each creak a memory. Thomas snoring through football games, Ryan thundering down at 16, late for curfew. Emily's tiny feet pattering to our bed during thunderstorms. The second floor smelled of dust and the lavender sachets I'd stopped replacing. I went to Thomas's study, sat in his chair, and opened the laptop I hadn't touched since the hospital. His password was still our wedding date. The desktop background was a photo from our 25th anniversary. Me laughing, Thomas kissing my cheek, Ryan and Emily flanking us with forced smiles. Even then, cracks. I don't know what I was looking for. Bank statements? A second will? My cursor hovered over folders labeled Taxes 2019, Ryan College, Medical. I clicked Medical and found subfolders for every year of Thomas's illness. Scans, prescriptions, trial protocols. Nothing unusual until I reached a file dated 3 weeks before he died. Whitmore. Thomas, final.pdf. My breath caught. It was a hospice admission form, signed by Ryan as power of attorney, countersigned by a doctor I didn't recognize. The admission date was 2 days after Thomas actually died at home. I was still staring when my phone buzzed on the desk. Unknown number. I almost let it ring out, but something, maybe the same instinct that dragged me to Saltwind, made me answer. Mrs. Whitmore? A woman's voice, low, distorted, like she was speaking through cloth. Don't go back to the house on Saltwind. I gripped the phone. Who is this? Watch yourself and don't open the full video. The man who sent it didn't die naturally. The line went dead. My pulse hammered in my throat. I checked the caller ID. Blocked. The room tilted. I opened my email on the desktop, refreshing like a reflex. Nothing. Then, ping. New message in the inbox I rarely used, the one Thomas set up for family newsletters. Subject, don't watch the video. No sender name, just a string of numbers. The body was a single line. He trusted the wrong son. Saltwind will break what's left of your heart. Attached was a photo. I clicked it with shaking fingers. It was the Saltwind cottage at night, taken from the tree line. The kitchen window glowed, and inside stood a figure, tall, broad-shouldered. Ryan. But the timestamp read 2:14 a.m. last night. I'd been there alone at midnight, left before dawn. Someone else had watched me watching Thomas. I printed the email, the photo, hands trembling so badly the paper jammed twice. The printer whirred like an accusation. I folded the pages into my pocket and went downstairs, poured the cold coffee down the sink. My reflection in the toaster looked wild. Gray roots, red eyes, mouth set like I'd bitten into something sour. I didn't recognize this woman. The Clara who baked cinnamon rolls for school fundraisers, who kissed skinned knees and believed her children's lies because love is blind on purpose. I should have called the police then. Should have driven to Ryan's sleek city apartment and screamed in the lobby until he faced me. But fear is a sneaky thing. It whispers, wait, gather more, be sure. And curiosity. God, curiosity is worse. It's the hook in the mouth that drags you forward even when you smell blood in the water. I packed a small bag, toothbrush, Thomas's old sweater that still smelled of him, the iron key on its red ribbon. I wrote a note for Emily. Gone to the coast for a few days, need the air, love you, and left it on the fridge under the magnet from her wedding. Then I sat at the kitchen table and opened my phone to the traffic app. Saltwind Road was clear, 43 minutes. I could be there by noon. But first, I needed armor. I went to the safe in Thomas's closet, spun the combination, Ryan's birthday, ironic now, and took out the envelope marked household cash. Inside was 5,000 in 20s and a smaller envelope I'd never seen. My name, again in Thomas's writing. I tore it open. Clara. If you're reading this, the worst has happened. Trust no one, especially not family. There's a second drive in the lining of my brown suitcase. Password is the name of the dog we never had. Burn after reading. My knees buckled. I sank to the carpet, the bills scattering like fallen leaves. Thomas had prepared for this, for betrayal, like a general before battle. I crawled to the suitcase on the top shelf, felt along the lining until my fingers found a hard edge. A tiny USB drive, black, no markings. I slipped it into my pocket with the key. The grandfather clock in the hall struck 11. Outside, clouds stacked like bruises over the rooftops. I stood in the doorway, bag slung over my shoulder, and looked back at the house that had held our life for 31 years. The afternoon light slanted through the stained glass panel above the door, painting the floor red and gold. For a moment, I saw us all there, Thomas chasing toddlers around the sofa, Ryan teaching Emily to ride her bike in the driveway, me clapping from the porch with flour on my apron. A perfect snapshot. A lie. I locked the door, the click loud as a gunshot in the stillness. The car started on the first try, engine purring like it knew we were running. I backed out slowly, watching the house shrink in the rear view until it was just another colonial on a street of colonials. My hands were steady now. Whatever waited at Saltwind, I would face it with open eyes. The fog rolled in as I hit the coastal highway, thick and wet, swallowing the road ahead. I kept the radio off. I needed to hear my own thoughts, jagged as they were. Ryan's face from the video flickered in my mind. Not the boy I'd raised, but the man who'd held the camera while his father spoke of unnatural death. My son? My betrayer? The email's warning looped. Don't watch the video. Too late for that. But there was more, Thomas had said. A second part. And now this stranger knew it too. The turnoff for Saltwind appeared suddenly, a narrow ribbon disappearing into mist. I took it without slowing, tires hissing on wet pine needles. The ocean roared somewhere to my left, hungry. I tightened my grip on the wheel, the iron key cutting into my thigh through my pocket. Whatever door waited, I was coming for it. The fog was so thick it felt like driving through milk. My headlights carved tunnels that collapsed the moment I passed. Saltwind Road narrowed to a single lane, pines leaning in like gossiping old women. I rolled the window down an inch. The air tasted of iron and endings. The GPS had given up 3 miles back, just a spinning wheel and the word searching. I didn't need it. My body knew this route the way it knew Thomas's heartbeat, by memory, by ache. The cottage emerged suddenly, as if the mist birthed it. Same weathered cedar shingles, same crooked chimney, but the windows glowed faintly. Someone had left a light on. I killed the engine and sat listening to the tick of cooling metal and the distant, relentless hush of the sea. The iron key burned against my thigh. I slipped it into my coat pocket with the USB drive Thomas had hidden, the one I still hadn't dared to open. Gravel crunched under my boots as I approached. The porch boards didn't creak. Someone had oiled the hinges. A new padlock gleamed on the door, but the key slid in smooth as breath. The tumblers turned with a soft, satisfied snick. I pushed inside. Warmth hit me first. Then the smell. Coffee, fresh, and something citrusy underneath. Not the stale air of abandonment. A single lamp burned on the table, its shade tilted like a curious head. The laptop was exactly where I'd left it at dawn, but the sticky note was gone. In its place, a fresh one. Welcome back, Mom. My stomach lurched. The handwriting was Ryan's, blocky, impatient, the same scrawl that used to sign permission slips and, later, apology texts after fights. I touched the paper. The ink was still tacky. The room looked lived in now. A coffee mug on the counter, half full. Lipstick smudge on the rim. My shade, Rosewood Dawn. A throw blanket I didn't recognize draped the couch, one corner tucked with hospital corner precision. Someone had been here, was here, maybe minutes ago. I smelled the ghost of Ryan's cologne, the one Thomas hated. Too sharp, too expensive. I moved on instinct, quiet as I'd learned to be when the kids were babies, and every floorboard a landmine. Kitchen drawers opened soundlessly, new hinges again. Inside the utensil tray lay a second key, smaller, brass, tagged with a red string. Basement, it read in Ryan's hand. My pulse thudded in my ears. Thomas had sealed that basement after Ryan's teenage parties, said it was for storage only. I'd believed him. First, the laptop. I needed to see what came after Thomas's bombshell. The screen woke instantly. No password, just the video file, now labeled Part 2, for Clara. My cursor hovered. The anonymous email flashed in my mind. Don't open the full video. Too late for warnings. I clicked. Static, then Thomas again. But the angle was different. Lower, handheld. He sat on the basement stairs, face gaunt, hospital gown peeking beneath a flannel shirt. The timestamp read 4 months ago. Clara, he rasped, voice raw from chemo. If you're seeing this, Ryan let you in, or you forced your way. Either way, you're braver than I ever was. He coughed, wiped his mouth with a trembling hand. I need you to understand. I agreed to this. The money, the foundation, all of it. Ryan said it was the only way to save us from the debts, from the trials that weren't working. But there's more. Look in the door behind me opened. I spun, heart slamming against my ribs. Ryan stood in the doorway, coat speckled with rain, face unreadable in the lamplight. He held a takeaway cup from the cafe in town, steam curling like incense. You came back, he said, not a question. His voice was calm, the same tone he used to negotiate mergers. I thought you might. I couldn't speak. My son, flesh of my flesh, filled the doorway like a stranger. Taller than Thomas now, broader. His eyes, my eyes, hazel with gold flecks, were flat. Close the laptop, Mom. He stepped inside, shut the door soft as a confession. We need to talk before you see the rest. My hand moved on its own, slamming the lid. The room shrank to the space between us. You were here last night, I managed, watching me. He nodded, set the coffee on the counter. Making sure you were safe. The fog's dangerous. People drive off cliffs. Safe? The word cracked out of me. You filmed your father saying he didn't die naturally, and you talk about safe? Ryan's jaw tightened. Dad was in pain. You saw him at the end. Couldn't swallow, couldn't breathe without the morphine drip. He begged me. His voice dropped. Begged, Mom? Not for the first time? I took a step back, bumped into the table. The brass key dug into my palm. Begged you for what? To let him go. Peacefully. The doctors wouldn't increase the dose. Said it was too risky. So He spread his hands, helpless. I helped. The air left my lungs. You killed him. No. Sharp now. I gave him what he wanted. There's a difference. I stared at the man I'd carried for 9 months, whose first word was Mama, who used to hide under this very table during hide and seek. You forged papers, the hospice form, the will. Dad signed everything, willingly. He wanted you provided for. But the debts? Ryan rubbed his forehead, suddenly exhausted. The foundation was bleeding us. He thought if he disappeared, the insurance would pay out. clean slate. Disappeared? My voice rose. He's dead, Ryan. Keep your voice down. He glanced at the window, where fog pressed like a living thing. There are neighbors, seasonal people. They hear everything. I laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Neighbors. God, listen to you, planning your father's murder like it's a business merger. He flinched. Actually, flinched. For a second, the boy peeked through, scared, uncertain. Then the mask slid back. It wasn't murder. It was mercy, and you weren't supposed to find out. But you left the key. I pulled it from my pocket, held it between us like a talisman. Thomas wanted me to know? Ryan's eyes flicked to the key, then away. Dad was sentimental, always leaving breadcrumbs. He moved closer, slow, like I was a spooked horse. Give me the laptop, Mom. Let me explain the rest. There's money set aside for you. Enough to fix the house, travel, whatever you want. I clutched the computer to my chest. I want my husband back. I want my son back. You never lost me. His hand rose, hesitant, then dropped. I'm still here. Are you? The words tasted of rust, because the Ryan I knew wouldn't drug his father and stage a death for insurance money. He went very still. You don't know the pressure, the calls from creditors, the experimental treatments that cost more than our house. Dad was drowning, and you were drowning with him, pretending everything was fine. I was holding us together. You were in denial. The shout echoed. Then he caught himself, lowered his voice. I did what I had to, for all of us. The basement key burned in my fist. I edged toward the hallway, casual. I need to see downstairs. Ryan's face hardened. There's nothing there. Then you won't mind me looking? I darted past him, faster than I'd moved in years. He lunged, but I was already at the basement door, fumbling the brass key into the lock. It turned with a groan. Mom, don't. I shoved the door open. Stairs descended into darkness, the air cool and papery. A string brushed my face. I pulled it. A single bulb flickered on, revealing chaos. Boxes overturned, papers everywhere, file cabinets yawning open. Someone had torn the place apart, recently by the fresh scuff marks on the concrete. But in the center, on a folding table, sat a neat stack. Financial ledgers, a folder labeled Whitmore Trust, and a small pharmacy vial, half empty, labeled midazolam. I stared at it, the pieces clicking like the lock upstairs. Sedative, hospital grade. Enough to stop a heart if you knew the dose. Behind me, Ryan's voice was soft. I told you. Nothing there. I turned. He held the iron key now, twirling it around his finger. You took this from my pocket. Borrowed. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. We're not done talking, Mom. Basement's cold. Come upstairs. I'll make tea. The bulb flickered. Shadows danced over his face, turning my son into a stranger wearing familiar skin. I looked at the vial, at the papers, at the key glinting in his hand. Whatever truth waited upstairs, it wasn't the one I'd come for. I climbed the basement stairs one slow step at a time, Ryan behind me like a shadow with weight. The brass key was gone from the lock. He'd palmed it while I stared at the vial. The iron key still spun on his finger, catching the lamplight in cold little flashes. My legs felt borrowed, knees trembling under the wool of my slacks. I kept one hand on the wall, feeling for the grain of the wood, the way I used to feel for fever on my children's foreheads. Back in the kitchen, the laptop waited. Lid closed, like a mouth holding a secret. Ryan set the iron key beside it, deliberate. Tea, he said again, filling the kettle from the tap. The water sounded too loud, a metallic roar. He didn't look at me. Sit, Mom, you're shaking. I sat. The chair was warm, someone else's body heat. The mug he slid across the table was mine, the one Emily painted at summer camp, world's okayest mom in crooked blue letters. Steam curled up, chamomile, my nighttime tea. He remembered, or he'd planned. "Play it," I said. My voice surprised me, steady, almost curious. "All of it." Ryan hesitated, then opened the laptop. The screen glowed. Part 2, for Clara. He clicked. Thomas filled the frame again, but this time the camera was steady, propped on something. He looked worse. Chemo had hollowed his cheeks, turned his skin the color of old parchment. Behind him, the basement wall, the same cracked concrete I'd just left. The timestamp? 4 months ago. "Clara," he began, then coughed, a wet sound that made my throat ache in sympathy. "By now you've seen the papers. Ryan will tell you I wanted this. That's half true." He leaned closer. The camera caught the tremor in his lips. I was tired. The pain was a living thing, eating me from the inside, but I never asked to die. I asked for time. More trials, more options. Ryan said there was a foundation, offshore, discreet. They'd fund a new protocol if I signed over the patents, the house, everything. I thought it was a loan, a lifeline. He swallowed hard. It wasn't. The contract? A rustle off screen. Thomas glanced sideways, fear flickering. "Ryan, stay out of frame, damn it." The camera wobbled. A hand, Ryan's hand, I knew the freckles on the knuckles, adjusted the lens. Thomas sighed. "The contract transfers assets on my death, not incapacity. Death, Ryan says it's cleaner that way. Insurance won't pay otherwise." My own hand flew to my mouth. Ryan stood motionless by the kettle, steam fogging his glasses. Thomas continued, voice dropping to a whisper. "He's been dosing me, Clara. Small amounts, to keep me compliant. I found the vials in his briefcase, midazolam, hospital surplus. I confronted him last week. He cried, said it was for my own good, that the pain would kill me slower than the cancer, that you'd thank him someday." The kettle whistled. Ryan flinched, moved to take it off the burner, his back to me, shoulders rigid. On screen, Thomas looked straight into the lens, eyes wet. "If I die before the trial starts, don't believe the hospice story. Check the dosages. Check the foundation. Whitmore Medical Trust, Cayman Islands. Ryan set it up. He's not." A sob broke through. "He's not the boy we raised, Clara. Grief does things. But this is calculation." The video jittered. Ryan's voice, off camera, low and urgent. "Dad, that's enough. You're upset." Thomas ignored him. "There's a second drive. In the floor safe, behind the water heater. Combination is Emily's birthday. It has the real contract, the one I refused to sign. If Ryan finds it first..." The screen went black mid-sentence. Silence rushed in, thicker than the fog outside. The kettle clicked off. Ryan turned slowly, 2 mugs in his hands. His face was pale, but composed. "He was delirious," he said. "The morphine. You know how it was at the end." I stared at the frozen frame. Thomas's mouth open, eyes wide with terror. "He looked lucid to me." Ryan set a mug in front of me. "Drink. It'll help the shock." I didn't touch it. "You drugged him to sign." He was in agony. Ryan's voice cracked, just a hair. "I gave him peace." "Peace?" I stood so fast, the chair scraped back. "You gave him an overdose and called it mercy?" He flinched again. "Lower your voice." "Or what? You'll dose me too?" The words tasted like bile, but I couldn't stop. "How long, Ryan? How long have you been planning this?" He set his own mug down, untouched. "Since the first trial failed, since the bills hit 6 figures, and the bank started calling. Dad was drowning us. You were selling your mother's jewelry to pay for experimental drugs that weren't working." His eyes met mine, pleading now. "I found the foundation. They promised full funding if Dad's estate ceded it, a legacy, his name on a cure he'd never see because you killed him for it. I accelerated what was inevitable. The shout burst out of him. Then he caught himself, hands clenched. He had weeks, Mom, maybe days. The pain. He begged me, on his knees. I saw it then, clear as the fog outside. My son, unraveling. The golden boy who'd won scholarships, who'd carried his father's coffin with dry eyes. Cracks, spiderwebbing across the facade. "Where's the second drive?" I asked. Ryan's gaze flicked to the basement door. There is no second drive. Dad was paranoid. I moved before he could stop me, back to the basement stairs. He grabbed my arm, gentle but firm. "Mom, stop." I twisted free, surprising us both with my strength. "Let go." We stared at each other across the narrow hall. Mother and son, strangers. The lamp flickered. For a second, his face looked 12 again, caught stealing cookies. Then the mask slid back. "You want the truth?" he said quietly. "Fine. But you won't like what it costs." He released me. I descended into the basement's chill, the bulb still swinging from my earlier tug. The mess looked worse in the half-light. Papers like snowdrifts, the folding table askew. I went straight to the water heater, an ancient beast in the corner. Behind it, a floor safe I'd forgotten we owned. Rust flaked under my fingers as I spun the dial. 0815, Emily's birthday. Click. The door opened to reveal a small cavity. Inside, a black USB drive, identical to the one in my pocket, and a single sheet of paper. I unfolded it with shaking hands. "Clara, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and Ryan succeeded. The foundation is a shell. He'll drain it within a year. Gambling debts, bad investments. I refuse to sign the final transfer. He'll forge my signature after I'm dead. Stop him. Protect Emily's share. I love you. Forgive me for being weak." Footsteps on the stairs. Ryan's silhouette at the top, backlit. "Find what you were looking for?" I slipped the drive and note into my bra, heart hammering. "Just cobwebs." He descended slowly. "You're a terrible liar, Mom." I met his eyes. Learned from the best. For a moment, neither of us moved. The bulb steadied, casting harsh shadows. Then Ryan smiled. Small, sad, almost tender. "Tea's getting cold," he said. I climbed past him, the USB a hard secret against my heart. Whatever came next, the dead had spoken, and I was finally listening. I climbed the basement stairs with the USB drive burning against my skin, and Thomas's last note folded so small it could have been a heartbeat. Ryan waited at the top, arms crossed, the iron key now on a chain around his neck like a trophy. The kitchen light felt too bright, surgical. My shadow stretched long across the pine floor, distorted, monstrous. "Sit," he said again, softer. He'd pulled 2 chairs to the table, facing each other like an interrogation. The laptop was closed. Beside it lay the half-empty vial of midazolam, label peeled half off, and a manila folder I hadn't noticed before. Whitmore Medical Trust, stamped in red. I sat. My knees knocked the table leg. The vial rolled. Clink, clink. Ryan caught it without looking. "Open the folder," he said. I did. Inside, the fake death certificate, crisp, official, cause of death, respiratory failure, secondary to metastatic lung cancer, signed by a Dr. Harlan Voss, stamped 2 days after Thomas drew his last breath in our bed. Next, a power of attorney dated a year prior. My signature forged beside Thomas's shaky one. Then the contract, pages of legalese, but the gist was clear. Upon Thomas's death, all assets, house, patents, life insurance, transferred to the trust. Sole trustee, Ryan M. Whitmore. I flipped to the last page. Thomas's signature, yes, but the ink was wrong. Too dark, Too even. Forged after the fact, just as he'd warned. You planned this for a year, I whispered. Ryan poured tea neither of us would drink. Dad was diagnosed terminal 18 months ago. The trials were a black hole. We were 3 months from foreclosure. He tapped the contract. This was the parachute. By killing him, by letting him choose the landing. His voice stayed level, infuriatingly calm. He signed the first draft willingly. The foundation promised a cure in exchange for seed money. When the cure didn't come, he panicked, wanted out. I couldn't let him tank everything. I stared at the vial. So you kept him docile. Managed his pain. He corrected me like I'd mispronounced a word. The doses were therapeutic until... the end. The end. I saw it then. Thomas in our bed, eyes fluttering, my hand in his, Ryan adjusting the morphine drip with the same detached efficiency he now used pouring tea. I'd thought it was grief making him methodical. It was practice. I slid Thomas's note across the table, face down. He says you have debts. Gambling. Ryan's eyes flicked to the paper, then away. Dad exaggerated. Stress does that. I opened the laptop, woke it. The desktop now showed a new folder. Insurance. Inside, claim forms already filled. My signature again, forged. Payout, $2 million. Beneficiary, the trust. You were going to leave me nothing. You'd have the house, he said, paid off, and a stipend. Generous, really? Generous. The word landed between us like a slap. I stood, chair scraping. I'm calling the police. Ryan moved faster, blocking the door. You do that, and Emily loses everything. The trust collapses, the insurance flags fraud, her college fund. Gone. You want that on your conscience? I froze. Emily's face, round cheeks, gap-toothed grin when she got her master's acceptance, flashed in my mind. Ryan knew exactly where to press. There's another way, he said. Sign the addendum. You become co-trustee. We split the payout. You keep the house, Emily's inheritance, your dignity. Dad's legacy funds real research. Everyone wins. He produced a pen, silver, monogrammed RMW, Thomas's old one. The addendum was clipped to the contract, my name pre-printed. I took the pen. My hand didn't shake. Show me the basement again. Ryan's brow creased. Why? Because I want to see where you murdered my husband. He flinched. Finally, a crack. It wasn't. Show me. He led the way. The basement bulb buzzed overhead. The mess was worse now. Someone had kicked papers into corners. But the folding table was pristine, wiped clean. The vial was gone from upstairs. Here it sat beside a yellow legal pad covered in Ryan's handwriting. Dosage schedules, timestamps, pain 810, increase 2 moraine. I picked up the pad. You kept a log. Medical necessity. I turned to the file cabinet, yanked the top drawer. Empty. The second, same. But the bottom drawer was locked. I rattled it. Ryan sighed. Mom. Open it. He hesitated, then produced the brass key from his pocket. The drawer slid out with a metallic sigh. Inside, medical records, Thomas's real ones. Progress notes from his oncologist. Patient alert, oriented, refuses hospice. A sticky note in the doctor's hand. Discussed POA with son. Patient declines, accelerated withdrawal. I held it up. He refused. Ryan's jaw worked. He was scared, in pain. People say things. I kept digging. Beneath the records, a second contract, the one Thomas mentioned. His signature absent. A blank line where it should be. And beneath that, a ledger. Pages of withdrawals from the trust, $50K to Emerald Isle Casino, $120K to Offshore Holdings Lanad, $75K to Voss, Harlan MD, payoffs. I looked at my son. You bought the doctor. Ryan's face went very still. He needed incentive to sign the certificate. The room tilted. I gripped the drawer to stay upright. "How much of me did you sell, Ryan?" He didn't answer. Outside, gulls screamed over the surf. I took the real contract, the ledger, the doctor's note, stuffed them into my waistband under my sweater. "I'm taking these." Ryan stepped forward. "You don't want to do that." "Watch me." I moved toward the stairs. He blocked me, hand on my arm, not rough, but immovable. "Mom, think of Emily." I looked at his hand, then his face. "I am." I brought my knee up, hard, into his groin. He doubled with a whoosh of air. I shoved past, taking the stairs 2 at a time. He recovered fast. Footsteps thundering behind. I slammed the basement door, through the deadbolt I'd noticed earlier. His fists pounded. "Mom, open this!" I grabbed the laptop, the iron key from the table, the vial, stuffed everything into my coat. The front door was 10 feet away. Ryan's shoulder hit the basement door. Wood splintered. I ran. The fog had lifted slightly. I could see the car. Keys. Where were my keys? Kitchen counter. I spun back, snatched them as the basement door gave way with a crack. Ryan stumbled out, face red, eyes wild. I was out the front door, across the gravel, yanking the driver's door. It opened. Engine roared to life. Ryan reached the porch as I reversed, tires spitting stones. He ran toward me, mouth open, in a shout I couldn't hear over the blood in my ears. I shifted into drive and floored it. The cottage shrank in the rear view, Ryan standing in the mist, hands hanging useless at his sides. 10 miles down the coast, I pulled into a gas station lot. Hands trembling, I plugged the basement USB into my phone. Files loaded, the real contract, bank records, an audio file labeled Tape 1. I pressed play. Thomas's voice, weak but clear. "Ryan, if you're hearing this, I'm dead. You promised it would be painless. You promised Clara would never know. But I know you, son. I know what you'll do with the money. If she finds this, tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I tried to stop you." A pause, then Ryan's voice, cold. "You should have signed, Dad." The recording cut to static. I sat in the silence, the ocean roaring beyond the dunes. My son had planned this for a year. My husband had fought to the end, and I was the only one left to finish it. I dialed Emily's number. It rang twice. "Mom?" Her voice, sleepy, warm. "Where are you? It's late." "Pack a bag, sweetheart," I said. "I'm coming to get you. We're going to the police." I hung up before she could ask why I was crying. I drove through the night with the windows down, salt air scouring my lungs. Emily's voice still echoed. "Mom, what's wrong?" But I'd only said, "Trust me, baby. I'll explain when I see you." The USB drive, Thomas's last words, sat in the cup holder like a live grenade. Every mile I expected headlights behind me. Ryan's sleek Audi cutting through the dark. None came. Yet. Dawn bled pink over the interstate when I reached the outskirts of Portland. Emily's apartment was above a bakery. The smell of yeast and sugar usually comforted me. Today it turned my stomach. I parked, killed the engine, and sat staring at the steering wheel. My hands looked foreign, knuckles white, Thomas's dried blood under one nail from the iron key. I hadn't noticed it before. Emily opened the door in pajamas, hair in a messy knot, baby monitor glowing on the counter behind her. "Mom?" She took one look at my face and pulled me inside. The apartment was warm, cluttered with toys and ungraded papers. She taught 3rd grade. She pressed a mug of coffee into my hands. "Talk." I told her everything. The key, Saltwind, the videos, Ryan, the forged contracts, the midazolam. I left out the part where I need her brother in the groin. Some maternal instincts die hard. Emily listened without interrupting, eyes growing wider, then narrower. When I finished, she was crying silently, tears tracking down cheeks still round with baby weight. He killed Dad, she whispered. For money. I think so. My voice cracked. But Thomas says there's proof on the drive. We need to get it to the police before Ryan disappears at all. Emily wiped her face with the sleeve of her sweatshirt. He's coming here. He called last night, said you were confused, that the grief had made you paranoid. He wanted to know if you'd contacted me. I set the mug down untouched. We have to move. She was already in motion, packing a diaper bag, waking the baby, stuffing file folders into a backpack. There's a detective in my building, she said. Retired. He owes me for tutoring his granddaughter. He'll know what to do. We were out the door in 7 minutes. The elevator dinged too loud. In the lobby, a man in a courier uniform glanced up. Too long, too still. I gripped Emily's hand. We took the stairs instead, baby on her hip, backpack bouncing. My car was where I'd left it, but the driver's side window was cracked in a perfect spiderweb. A brick lay on the seat, wrapped in paper. Emily read over my shoulder. Stop digging, Mom. Next time it's not the window. I started the engine anyway. We peeled out, baby wailing in the back. Emily called her detective friend. Mark Brennan, gruff voice, said to meet at the station. Bring everything. I took side streets, checking mirrors. No tail. Yet. The police station was a low brick building with too many flags. Brennan met us in the lobby. 60, ex-linebacker, kind eyes that had seen too much. He ushered us to a conference room, locked the door. I handed over the USB, the iron key, the vial, the forged contracts, Thomas's note. Emily added her phone. Ryan's threatening text glowing on the screen. Brennan plugged the drive into a department laptop. Let's see what your husband left you. The screen filled with files. Bank transfers, emails between Ryan and Dr. Voss, signature needed by Friday, bonus wired, audio files labeled by date. He clicked the most recent. Thomas's voice, faint, recorded in what sounded like a bathroom. Echoey tile. Clara, if you're hearing this, I'm still alive. Barely. Ryan increased the dose tonight. I can feel it. Heart slowing. Thought slippery. He thinks I'm asleep. The safe combination is still Emily's birthday. Inside is the unsigned contract and a flash drive with everything. Voss is scared. Ryan threatened his license. If I die before you find this, it's murder. Tell Emily I love her laugh. Tell her to name the baby after your mother. And Clara, don't let him win. A door opened on the recording. Ryan's voice, muffled. Dad, you okay? Thomas whispered, urgent. He's coming. Hide this. Static. Brennan paused it. We'll need forensics on the vial, the key, but this is enough for a warrant. He looked at me. You willing to wear a wire? Get him talking? I nodded before fear could stop me. Whatever it takes. Emily squeezed my hand. Her wedding ring, Thomas's mother's, glinted. I'm coming too. No. Brennan and I said it together. He softened. You stay with the baby. Safe house. We'll put a unit on you. They took my statement, photographed the brick, dusted the car. Hours blurred. By noon, I was in a safe house myself, a motel off the highway, peeling wallpaper, vending machine humming. Brennan handed me a burner phone and a tiny recorder sewn into a sweater button. Call him, he said. Say you want to meet. Neutral ground. We'll be listening. I dialed Ryan's number with fingers that remembered rocking him to sleep. He answered on the second ring. Mom. Relief or pretense. Where are you? I've been worried sick. I know what you did. My voice didn't shake. Practice. We need to talk. Alone. A pause. Salt wind? Sunset? Public. The pier at Cannon Beach. 1 hour. He agreed too fast. I hung up, looked at Brennan. He'll bring evidence. Or a gun. We'll be there first. The drive to Cannon Beach was 40 minutes of ocean on my left, cliffs on my right. I kept the radio off. Windows up, recorder live. Emily texted from the safe house. Baby asleep. Love you. Be careful. The pier was crowded. Tourists, dogs, gulls fighting over fries. I parked, walked the boards with the iron key in my pocket like a talisman. Ryan waited at the far end, leaning on the rail, wind whipping his coat. He looked younger in daylight, almost the boy who'd built sandcastles here. Almost. He turned when my footsteps approached. You came. I want the truth, I said. The recorder hummed against my heart. All of it. Ryan glanced around. No one close. Dad was suffering. I gave him peace. The money was collateral. I was going to pay it back. With what? More fraud? His jaw tightened. I have debts. Bad ones. The foundation was supposed to float me until the next round of grants. Dad panicked, threatened to go to the police. I couldn't let him ruin everything. So you killed him. I helped him die with dignity. His eyes pleaded. You saw him, Mom? The pain. He begged. I pulled out the unsigned contract. He begged to live. Ryan's face crumpled. Genuine or practiced. I didn't want this. I loved him. Then turn yourself in. Make it right. He laughed, bitter. And lose everything? Emily's future? Yours? I'll manage. I stepped closer. The police have the drive. The vial. It's over? For a second, hope flickered. Surrender. Then his hand dipped into his coat. I braced for a gun. Instead, he pulled out a second USB drive. Black, identical. Copy of everything, he said, including a video of Dad begging me to end it. You show yours, I show mine. Stalemate. I stared at the drive. You'd destroy his memory? To save us? Yes. Behind him, plainclothes officers moved in. Brennan's team. Ryan saw my eyes flick and spun. Too late. Hands cuffed him, reading rights. He didn't fight, just looked at me with something like pity. You'll regret this, Mom. I watched them lead him away. The ocean roared approval. I opened my hand. The iron key glinted, still flecked with Thomas's blood. Regret? Maybe, but not for this. They put Ryan in the back of an unmarked sedan, cuffs glinting in the late sun. I stood on the pier long after the car disappeared, wind whipping my hair into my mouth, tasting salt and metal. Tourists flowed around me like water around a rock. Someone's child laughed. The sound cut straight to the bone. Brennan touched my elbow. We'll take you to the station. Statement, then home. Home. The word felt hollow. I let him lead me to a second car. Emily texted a photo, her baby asleep on a cot in the safe house, thumb in mouth. We're okay. Come when you can. I pressed the phone to my chest like a poultice. The interview room smelled of burnt coffee and bleach. Brennan slid the recorder across the table. Play the pier conversation again. Make sure we got everything. Ryan's voice filled the room, tinny through the speaker. I helped him die with dignity. I was going to pay it back. Each word a fresh bruise. When it ended, Brennan nodded. Good. With the USB, the vial, the forged docs, this is felony murder, fraud, the works. He's not walking. I stared at the iron key they'd bagged as evidence. He said there's another video. Dad begging. Brennan's eyes softened. We'll find it. Or we won't. Either way, the physical evidence doesn't lie. They kept me 3 hours. Signatures, timelines, photos of the brick through my window. By the time they drove me to the safe house, night had fallen hard. Emily opened the door before I knocked, baby on her hip, eyes red but fierce. We held each other in the doorway until the officer cleared his throat. Inside, the room was beige and temporary. A single bed, a crib, a hot plate. Emily had made tea in paper cups. We sat on the edge of the bed, knees touching. He called me from the car. she said quietly. Before they booked him, said to tell you he's sorry, that he'll plead to manslaughter if you don't fight the will. Keep the house. The insurance split. I laughed, sharp, humorless. He thinks money fixes this? Emily's hand found mine. What do we do, Mom? We bury your father again, properly this time, and we live. Sleep came in fits, the baby's soft snorts the only lullaby. I dreamed of Thomas on the basement stairs, reaching for me through bars that looked like Ryan's fingers. Morning brought news. Ryan had lawyered up, some shark from the city, Ty probably costing more than my car. Bail hearing set for tomorrow. Brennan called. They swept Saltwind. Place is clean, but we found something in the floor safe. Second drive, just like your husband said. My pulse jumped. The begging video? Worse. Brennan's voice was grim. Come see. They drove me to the county lab, a squat building behind the courthouse. Inside, a tech in a white coat loaded the drive. The screen flickered to life. Thomas, gaunt, hospital gown hanging off his shoulders. Same basement. But the angle was wrong. Ceiling mounted, like a security cam. Timestamp, the night he died. He was alone at first, pacing, muttering. Clara, if you see this, I tried to stop him. Ryan's coming tonight. He thinks I'm too weak to fight. The unsigned contract is in the lining of the brown suitcase. Tell the police. The door opened. Ryan entered, syringe in hand. Thomas backed against the wall. Son, please, we can fix this. Call your mother. Ryan's voice was gentle, terrifying. You're in pain, Dad. Let me help. Thomas lunged for the stairs. Ryan caught him, arm around his throat, needle flashing. Thomas struggled. God, he fought. My husband, who could barely lift a coffee cup. A muffled cry, then silence as the sedative hit. Ryan lowered him to the floor, checked his pulse, then looked straight at the camera. He knew it was there. He spoke to the lens. Insurance adjusters, if you're watching, this was compassionate. Dad's choice. He pulled a pre-written note from his pocket, placed it in Thomas's hand. Suicide. Then he reached up, ripped the camera from its mount. Static. The tech froze the last frame. Thomas's eyes open, staring at nothing. I couldn't breathe. Emily gripped my shoulder so hard it hurt. Brennan cursed under his breath. That's murder on tape, he said. No plea deal now. They let me keep a copy of the video, evidence, but also closure. I watched it again in the safe house, alone, volume low. Thomas's fight replayed until I memorized every second. When Ryan looked at the camera, I paused it. His eyes, my eyes, were empty. Evening. Brennan called again. Ryan wants to see you. Jail visit. Says it's about the will. I shouldn't have gone, but mothers are stupid that way. The county jail smelled of disinfectant and despair. They put me in a booth, glass between us. Ryan looked smaller and orange, cuffs clinking when he picked up the phone. Mom. His voice cracked. Real or rehearsed, I couldn't tell anymore. I didn't speak. I didn't mean for it to go this far. He leaned closer to the glass. The video, Dad was out of his mind. Pain does that. I found my voice. He fought you. Ryan's eyes flicked away. He was scared. I panicked. You planned it for a year. A long silence. Then, I was drowning. The debts. Bookies broke my ribs last spring. I told Dad I'd fix it. He believed me until he didn't. His fingers pressed the glass. I loved him. I just loved being alive more. I stared at the hand that had held a syringe. You don't get to say his name anymore. Ryan's face crumpled. The will's real, Mom. The first one, before I changed it. Dad wanted you and Em taken care of. I can sign it back. Today. Just visit me. Don't let me rot. I stood. You rot, Ryan. That's the point. I turned to leave. His voice chased me. I'm still your son. I paused at the door, didn't look back. No, you're the man who killed my husband. That's all. Outside, the sky had opened, rain slashing sideways. Brennan waited under an umbrella. You okay? I shook my head. But I will be. We drove to the funeral home. Thomas's body had been held for autopsy. Now it was released. I chose a simple pine box, no varnish. Emily picked wildflowers from the roadside. We buried him at dusk in the small cemetery behind our church, the one where we'd married. Ryan wasn't there. Jailed, denied bail. The video had sealed it. I spoke at the grave. Just family, Brennan, a few old neighbors. Thomas taught me love is patient. Today I learned it's also fierce. He fought to the end. So will I. Emily scattered petals. The baby cooed, reaching for the dirt. Life, stubborn as ever. That night, in the safe house, I opened the brown suitcase, in the lining, exactly where Thomas said, "The real will." My name, Emily's. Everything intact. Ryan's forgeries nullified. I burned his fake contracts in the motel sink, watched the paper curl black. The smoke alarm shrieked. Emily laughed through tears. We opened the window, let the rain in. Tomorrow, court. The day after, a new life. But tonight, I held my daughter and granddaughter, and for the first time in months, I slept without dreaming of keys. They released us from the safe house at dawn. Brennan's team had swept the Saltwind cottage again overnight and found nothing but bleach fumes and a single muddy boot print near the back door, Ryan's size. The place had been sanitized like a crime scene, which, of course, it was. I stood on the porch while the forensic techs packed up, the iron key now sealed in an evidence bag on someone's clipboard. The ocean looked indifferent, gray and endless. Emily waited in the driveway, baby strapped to her chest, diaper bag slung over one shoulder like a soldier's pack. She'd insisted on coming. I need to see it empty, she said. Need to know he's really gone from here. We walked the rooms together, our footsteps echoing. The laptop was gone. The basement files, the midazolam vial, everything. Only the faint scent of pine cleaner lingered, mocking us. Brennan met us in the kitchen. We pulled prints from the boot tread, Ryan's, and we found a burner phone in the crawl space. Texts to an untraceable number. Clean it tonight. Bring the shredder. Sent 2 hours after you need him and ran. Emily's eyes widened. He had help? Looks like it. We're tracing the number. Could be the good Dr. Voss. Could be a hired hand. Either way, your brother didn't act alone. I rubbed my arms, suddenly cold. He threatened me on the pier, said if I pushed, I'd lose more than I thought. Brennan nodded. We expected escalation. That's why we're moving you to a new safe house, federal this time, and we need you to do one more thing. He slid a small black box across the table. Inside, a necklace, delicate silver chain, a tiny pendant shaped like a teardrop. GPS tracker. Wear it. If Ryan makes bail, or if his accomplice comes looking, we'll know where you are within 10 feet. Emily touched the pendant. It's beautiful. It's insurance, Brennan corrected. Put it on, Clara. I did. The metal was cool against my collarbone, heavier than it looked. Back at the federal safe house, a nondescript ranch outside Salem with blackout curtains and a guard at the gate, Emily set up a playpen in the corner. The baby gurgled at a plastic elephant while we spread the evidence across the kitchen table like a grim picnic. Copies of everything. The unsigned contract, the real will, the autopsy photos Brennan had pulled strings to get, Thomas's body, pale and bruised, the puncture mark in his arm circled in red. Emily traced the circle with one finger. He fought. He always did, I said. Just not the way we thought. My burner buzzed. Unknown number. I showed Brennan. He nodded, hit record. I answered. Mom, Ryan's voice, thin through the jail payphone. You're making this worse. I gripped the phone. You murdered your father on camera. It can't get worse. A pause. There's another copy of the video. The one where Dad begs me to end it. I hid it where you'll never look. Push this to trial, and it goes public. His reputation, your grief, ripped open for the tabloids. Think of Emily's students reading headlines. Teacher's dad begged son for suicide. Emily's face went white. I muted the call. He's bluffing. Is he? She whispered. I unmuted. Send it. Let the world see Thomas fighting for his life. Ryan laughed, soft and broken. You always were stubborn. Fine, but remember, every action has a reaction. Tell Emily to check her mailbox. The line went dead. Brennan was already on his radio. Unit to the Portland address? Now. We waited, the clock ticking like a bomb. 20 minutes later, an officer called back. A plain manila envelope in Emily's faculty mailbox at school. Inside, a flash drive and a Polaroid. The photo showed Emily's classroom, her desk, the baby's car seat in the corner where she sometimes nursed during planning periods. On the drive, 30 seconds of video. Ryan's voice, calm. If Mom doesn't back off, the next package goes to the school board. And the one after that, well, let's not find out. Emily sank into a chair, baby fussing against her. He was in my room. Brennan's jaw was granite. We're pulling her security footage, and we're getting a restraining order. I stared at the Polaroid. The car seat had a new scratch on the handle, fresh. Someone had been close enough to touch. That night, I couldn't sleep. The necklace tracker glowed faintly on the nightstand. I'd taken it off to shower and forgotten to put it back. I slipped it on again, the chain catching in my hair. Emily slept on the couch. Baby in a portable crib. I sat at the table with Thomas's real will, tracing his signature. Steady, even at the end. My burner buzzed again. Same unknown number. I answered without thinking. Mrs. Whitmore. Not Ryan. A woman, voice distorted like the anonymous email weeks ago. You're poking a hornet's nest. Stop, or the girl loses more than a classroom. I gripped the phone. Who is this? Someone who knows where your granddaughter naps. Back off. Destroy the evidence, or the next video won't be a threat. The call ended. I stared at the screen, then at Emily's sleeping form. The baby sighed in her sleep. Brennan burst in 10 minutes later. My scream had triggered the panic button under the table. I showed him the call log. He traced it to a burner purchased in cash at a Portland gas station. No cameras. We're moving you again, he said. Tonight. Emily woke, confused, packing in a daze. I held the baby while she folded tiny onesies. Mom, what if we just give him what he wants? The money. Let him go. I looked at her, my gentle girl, willing to sacrifice justice for peace. Then he wins, and Thomas dies for nothing. She nodded, tears falling onto the baby's hair. I'm scared. Me too. The new safe house was a cabin in the Cascades, no cell service, generator humming. Brennan's team set up motion sensors, a dog named Juno who growled at shadows. We arrived at 3 a.m., exhausted. Emily fell into bed fully clothed. I sat on the porch with Juno, stars sharp overhead. My burner, now confiscated, had been replaced with a satellite phone. It rang at dawn. Brennan. We found the accomplice, Dr. Voss. He rolled. Said Ryan paid him $50,000 to falsify the death certificate and clean Saltwind. Voss recorded their last meeting for insurance. We have Ryan on tape admitting the murder, bragging about the begging video being fake. Deep fake AI, generated from old home movies. I exhaled, shaky. So it's over. Almost. Voss wore a wire to Ryan's bail hearing. Judge denied. Ryan's lawyered up, but the video evidence is ironclad. Trial's in 6 weeks. I looked at the mountains, pink with sunrise. And the threats? Voss says they were Ryan's idea. Scare tactics. No real plan, just desperation. I hung up, went inside. Emily was making coffee on a camp stove, baby on her hip. I told her everything. She handed me a mug. So we go home? Not yet, but soon. We stayed in the cabin 3 more days, walking trails, teaching the baby to wave at squirrels. On the last morning, Brennan arrived with a box. Inside, Thomas's ashes, released from evidence, and the iron key, cleaned, blood gone. For you, he said. Case is closed. Ryan took a plea, 25, to life, no parole for 15. Emily cried. I didn't. Not yet. We scattered Thomas in the mountain stream. Wildflowers from the cabin porch floating after. The key I kept. Some doors, once opened, can't be locked again. We left the cabin at first light, the satellite phone crackling with Brennan's final instructions. Head straight to the federal building in Portland. Sign the plea paperwork. Then you're free to go home. Emily rode shotgun, baby asleep in the back, the iron key on its red ribbon around my neck like a medal I hadn't earned. The mountains gave way to valleys, then to the sprawl of the city. My hands were steady on the wheel. I hadn't slept. But adrenaline is a cruel kind of coffee. The federal building loomed, glass and steel, flags snapping in a wind that smelled of rain. Brennan met us in the lobby, tie askew, eyes bloodshot. Paperwork's ready. Ryan signed at 2 a.m. 25 years, no parole for 15. Voss flipped completely, handed over the deepfake software, the offshore accounts. It's airtight. Emily exhaled, a sound like surrender. We can bury Dad again? Tomorrow, if you want. Brennan led us to a conference room. The table was stacked with files, the real will on top, my name in Thomas's handwriting. I traced the ink. Steady, deliberate. He'd written it the week before he died, when Ryan thought he was sleeping. I signed where the paralegal pointed. Emily, too. The house, the patents, the insurance. Ours, clean. Ryan's forgeries nullified. When the last pen stroke dried, Brennan slid a small evidence bag across the table. Inside, the midazolam vial, now empty, label peeled entirely off. Forensics drained it, he said. Confirmed hospital-grade sedative, enough for 3 lethal doses. I stared at the bag. And the laptop? The drives? Brennan's face changed, tight, careful. That's why I wanted you here in person. Saltwind burned last night. The room tilted. Emily gripped my hand. Burned? Arson. Accelerant poured through the basement window. By the time the fire crew arrived, the place was ash. Laptop, files, the folding table, gone. We pulled one hard drive from the rubble, but it's slag. I stood so fast the chair rolled back. Ryan did this from jail? Impossible. No calls, no visitors but his lawyer. We think Voss had a dead man switch. Instructions to a third party if he flipped. We're raiding his office now. Emily's voice was small. The murder video, backed up on our servers. The cabin security cam caught the arsonist, masked, average build, no ID yet. Brennan rubbed his neck. But the physical evidence from Saltwind? Gone. The plea stands, but the trial would have been stronger with the originals. I sank back into the chair. The key felt heavier, suddenly useless. He's still winning. Brennan shook his head. He's in a 6x8 cell, Mom. He lost. We left the building at noon, the sky bruising with storm clouds. Emily wanted to see her apartment. Pick up mail, clothes, the baby's favorite blanket. Brennan assigned a patrol car to follow. I drove on autopilot, the city blurring, the radio played a song Thomas loved. Our song, the one we danced to in the kitchen with flour on our faces. I turned it off. Emily's complex looked normal. Kids on scooters, a dog barking behind a fence. The patrol car parked across the street. We took the elevator to the 3rd floor. Her door was ajar. I froze. Emily's hand flew to the baby's head. "Stay behind me." We pushed inside. The apartment had been ransacked, drawers dumped, couch cushions slashed, the baby's crib overturned. On the kitchen counter, a new USB drive, black, no label. Pinned beneath it, a single iron key, new, shiny, no blood. A note in Ryan's handwriting. Insurance. Play it alone. Emily called Brennan while I stared at the key. Same teeth as the original, but colder. The patrol officers swept the rooms. Clear. No prints, no fibers. Whoever did this was a ghost. Brennan arrived in under 10 minutes. Face grim. "We're dusting. You're not staying here." He took the USB to the mobile lab in the parking lot. We waited in the lobby, baby fussing against Emily's shoulder. My phone buzzed. Blocked number. I showed Brennan. He nodded. I answered. "Mom." Ryan's voice, calm, almost cheerful. "You got my gift." I gripped the phone. "You burned Saltwind." "Insurance adjusts," he said, echoing his old line. "That drive has the deepfake. Dad begging me to end it. High quality. You destroy my originals, I destroy his memory. Fair trade." "You're in jail?" "Lawyer visit yesterday. He passed it along. Voss wasn't the only one with contingencies." A pause. "Back off the appeal, Mom. Let the plea stand. Or the video goes to every news outlet from here to New York. Emily's school gets a copy. The baby's daycare, too." The line went dead. Brennan took the phone, face dark. "We'll trace it." "It's a burner," I said, "like the others." He plugged the USB into a hardened laptop. The screen filled with Thomas, our living room, Christmas 2 years ago. He looked tired but alive, smiling at the camera. Audio kicked in, his voice layered over the footage. "Ryan, son, the pain's too much. Promise me you'll help me go when it's time. Promise me." The video looped, Thomas's eyes pleading. Emily sobbed. "It's not real." "Deepfake," Brennan confirmed. "Good one, but we can prove it." "Metadata's clean, though. Whoever rendered it knew their stuff." I stared at the screen until Thomas's face blurred. He's still fighting from a cage. We left the apartment with what we could carry. Photos, the baby's blanket, Emily's gradebook. The patrol car followed us to a new hotel, downtown, 23rd floor, keycard access only. Brennan posted guards at the door. That night, I sat by the window, city lights flickering like uncertain stars. Emily slept on the rollaway, baby between us. The new key lay on the nightstand, catching the glow. I turned it over. On the bow, tiny engraving, Saltwind 2.0. I woke Emily at 3 a.m. "We're ending this," she rubbed her eyes. "How?" I held up the key. "He wants us scared. We stop being scared." We called Brennan. By dawn, we were in a conference room with FBI techs. They built a sting. Fake appeal filing, leaked to Ryan's lawyer. The plan, when the accomplice surfaced to deliver the deepfake publicly, we'd grab them. 2 days later, it worked. A courier dropped an envelope at a local news station. Inside, the USB and a note, "Play this or the family pays." The courier was Voss's nephew, 19, terrified. He rolled in 10 minutes. Ryan had paid him through the lawyer, promised a new life in Mexico. Brennan raided the lawyer's office, found a laptop with the original deepfake files, timestamps matching Ryan's jail visits. The lawyer sang. Ryan had smuggled instructions via legal mail, coded in case notes. By noon, Ryan was in solitary, the lawyer disbarred, the nephew in protective custody. We went home the next day. The house smelled of dust and absence, but the windows let in real light. Emily hung the baby's mobile above the crib we'd stored in the attic. I stood in Thomas's study, the real will framed on the wall now. The iron key, Both of them went into a shadow box above the fireplace. Evidence, but also warning. Ryan's last call came that night. Collect from prison. "It's over," I said before he could speak. "Nothing's over," he whispered. "I'll appeal. You'll rot," I said, and hung up. I poured 2 glasses of Thomas's good whiskey. Emily and I toasted on the porch, baby asleep inside. The stars were sharp, unforgiving. Tomorrow, we'd replant the garden. The day after, we'd live. The house settled around us like a cat curling into its favorite chair. 6 months had passed since Ryan's plea, since the last burner phone went silent, since the Saltwind ashes were raked for evidence and found wanting. Emily moved back into her apartment, but she and the baby spent most weekends here, filling the rooms with new laughter that still startled me, bright, unburdened. I kept the garden wild now. The hydrangeas Thomas loved had gone leggy, but the bees didn't mind. I stood at the kitchen sink one October morning, hands in soapy water, watching the baby, Clara June after me, chase fallen leaves across the lawn. Emily sat on the porch steps, grading papers, wind tugging her hair. The shadow box above the fireplace caught the light, 2 iron keys, the original blood-flecked, the copy pristine. Between them, Thomas's real will, framed like a diploma. Brennan had called them trophies of survival. I called them scars. The mailman came early. I dried my hands. Met him at the box, bills, a flyer for leaf removal, and a small padded envelope with no return address. My name in block letters, Ryan's old habit from childhood, when he'd leave apology notes on my pillow after fights. I carried it inside, heart ticking like a clock that had forgotten the hour. Emily looked up. "Everything okay?" "Just junk," I lied, and slipped the envelope into my cardigan pocket. I waited until nap time. Baby down, Emily grading in the study. I took the envelope to Thomas's old desk, the one place Ryan never sat after the arrest. The flap was sealed with clear tape, careful. Inside, a single USB drive, silver this time, and a Polaroid. The photo showed the Saltwind ruins at dusk, charred beams, the chimney standing like a broken finger. On the back, in Ryan's hand, "Some doors stay open." I plugged the drive into my laptop, the one the FBI had returned, wiped clean except for family photos. A single video file, for Clara, final. I pressed play. The screen filled with Ryan. Not the orange jumpsuit, not the jail booth glass. He sat in what looked like a storage room. Concrete walls, a metal table, fluorescent hum. His hair was longer, face thinner, but his eyes... God, his eyes were Thomas's when he was tired. The timestamp read yesterday. "Mom," he started, voice low, like we were sharing a secret across the kitchen table. "If you're watching this, the system worked. My lawyer's paralegal owed me a favor. One last message before they cut off my mail." He leaned closer. "I'm not asking forgiveness. I lost that right the night I held the syringe, but I need you to understand. Dad was drowning us. The debts, the trials, the way you looked at him like he was already gone. I thought I was saving you both." He held up a small iron key, identical to the copies, but older, worn. "This opens a locker at the downtown bus station. Inside is the original laptop hard drive, the one that survived the fire. I paid a guard to smuggle it out before the arson. Everything's on it. Real videos, the ones where Dad fights me, where he begs to live. Not the deep fake, the truth." His voice cracked. "I kept it as insurance. Thought I'd need leverage. But solitary does something to a man. You start hearing the walls breathe. I don't want to win anymore. I just want you to know I'm sorry. For Dad. For you. For Emily." He looked off camera, nodded. The video ended. I sat frozen, the keys twin in my pocket suddenly heavy. Emily's voice floated from the study. "Mom, coffee's ready." I closed the laptop. coming." We drank coffee on the porch, baby stirring awake inside. Emily watched the leaves swirl. "You've been quiet since the mail came." I pulled the envelope from my pocket, showed her the Polaroid. Her face went pale. "He's still playing games?" she said. "Maybe." I turned the key over in my hand. Or maybe he's finally done. We drove to the bus station that afternoon. Brennan met us, retired now, but still answering my calls. The locker was in the back, number 217. The key slid in smooth. Inside, a metal box, combination lock. Emily's birthday, of course. Brennan opened it. The hard drive, scorched, but intact. A second envelope. Inside, a letter in Ryan's handwriting. Pages this time. "Mom, M, I'm writing this, knowing I'll never send it the normal way. The guard's taking a risk. If you're reading it, you found the drive. Watch the videos in order, then decide what to do with them. I won't fight anymore. The lawyer's fired. The appeals are dropped. I'll serve my time. Maybe one day you'll visit. Maybe not. Either way, I'm giving you the last piece, Dad's real voice, his real fight. Keep it, burn it, show the world. It's yours now. Love." Yeah, I still get to say it. Ryan Brennan took the drive to the lab. The videos were everything Ryan promised. Thomas raging, pleading, fighting to the last breath. No deep fakes, just truth, raw and ugly. We buried the ashes again that spring, this time in the garden under the hydrangeas. Emily scattered wildflower seeds. The baby toddled, scattering dirt. I placed the 3 keys in the hole with Thomas's urn. Original, copy, locker. Let the earth keep them. Ryan's visit started a year later. Once a month, glass between us. He asked about the baby's first steps, Emily's new job at the university. I brought photos. We didn't talk about Saltwind. Some doors stay closed. The house is loud now. Emily's laughter, the baby's demands, my own voice reading bedtime stories. I kept one thing from the box, a single frame from the real video, Thomas smiling at the camera, alive. It hangs in the hallway, next to Clara June's first crayon drawing. Some nights I still hear the ocean, feel the fog on my skin. But I don't wake gasping anymore. The keys are buried. The truth is ours, and the garden blooms wild and free. I learned something in that year of hell. Betrayal doesn't end with the traitor. It ends when you choose who you'll become on the other side. I chose us. I chose life. And darling, if you're still here with me, breathing with me through this long confession, thank you. Did you like my story? What city are you from? See me in the comments. If it touched you, support me with super thanks so I can keep telling stories like this. Thank you so much for your amazing support. I look forward to your comments. On screen, you'll see 2 new real-life stories that I highly recommend. There are so many more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next story. With all love and respect.